Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Battle-Born Digital Learning Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Kyle Anderson, a special education teacher in Las Vegas, Nevada at Clark High School. And with me, as per usual, is my partner, Maggie Cox. Maggie, how you doing?
Doing good. Maggie Cox. I teach at Desert Pines High School, a career and technical education medical teacher. I'm very active in our CTE programs, and I'm currently president of the NACD Association. We're excited to have LeAnn Morris with us today. She's been in Nevada a very long time, and we're excited to hear about some of your history and what you're up to right now with our Nevada Digital Engineer projects.
Yes, indeed. So LeAnn is somebody I got to work with for my couple of years. I was in Carson City, and I miss her every day because it was just so incredible getting to work with LeAnn on a regular basis. And we're continuing our Spotlight series on the digital engineers, and Dr. Morris was very gracious to volunteer to come and share her experiences, her thoughts, and what she's doing with the collaborative. So good evening, Dr. Morris. How you doing?
I'm doing well tonight. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, why don't you take a moment to introduce yourself, tell us what you do, where you're at, your experience in education, all those juicy tidbits.
All right. As Kyle and Maggie said, my name is LeAnn Morris. This is my 31st year in public education. All of those actually with Carson City School District. So my entire career has been here in the state of Nevada in Carson City. I've had the wonderful opportunity to teach K-5 students and high school age students. Middle school students are the only grade level of student that I have not taught in my career. Currently, I am the instructional technology coordinator for Carson City School District. This is my 9th year in this position. So I have been out of the classroom working with students now for 9 years, but I really enjoy being able to go to all 10 of our schools here in Carson City, 6 elementary, 2 middle, and 2 high schools, and work and support all of our teachers and administrators with technology integration. And another piece of my work, since we have our new computer science standards in the state, is also to help. I am the curriculum coordinator for computer science for K-12 as well.
And part of that career of yours as well that has spanned these last 31 years. In 2008, I believe it was, you were the Nevada Teacher of the Year.
Yes, that is correct. Thank you. I'm still very honored to have received that recognition, and there are so many opportunities that have come from receiving that honor. So yes, thank you, Kyle.
Absolutely. And then another interesting piece is that you are CETL certified, CETL. So tell us a little bit about what that is, because I'm very much in the dark on what a CETL certification is.
Okay, sure. CETL stands for Certified Education Technology Leader, and it is an industry standard certification from an organization called COSN, the Consortium of School Networks. And originally, when it was created, it was more for folks in the IT departments of school districts. But what it actually, it consists of 3 parts, and I wanted to make sure that I was telling this correctly. There's 3 components to the exam that you have to pass in order to earn this certification. Leadership and vision is one of them. Understanding the educational environment, which is really the instructional side of the certification, and then managing technology and support resources. So the amazing thing about this certification is folks that come into educational technology from the IT or the business sector, they may not have as much knowledge as they may need about the instructional side. So to obtain this, you really have to become versed in all of those areas and even the leadership and vision. So where my the majority of course I'm on the instructional side. However, I was fortunate when I taught 3 years at Carson High School that I actually taught Cisco Networking Academy and A plus networking, A plus hardware repair. So I did have a little knowledge about the IT side. But anyone that is interested in how school districts operate at the really at the district level in all of those areas that I just mentioned. It is very worthwhile, and it's actually one of the best professional learning opportunities that I have really embarked on, in addition to earning my PhD. But the idea of having this certification is to really better understand how everyone in the district works together to make educational technology really be the tool that it can be, and to enhance student learning, which is obviously the best reason. But in my day-to-day work, we have to make sure that our teachers have the professional learning opportunities around not just the tools and resources themselves, but of course the pedagogical practices and the many things that it takes to actually use the technology. And it has become, as we know, more important than ever, in this last year with the pandemic, when everyone has been forced to use technology, and how that has really come into play for every single teacher and student.
Yes. Well, we can see why your perspective on the digital engineers was so important. To have that broad perspective of district level organization was really helpful. That's great.
Thank you.
And you also, as part of your position in Carson City, you hold a weekly tech cafe, or at least you used to. I'm not sure what that looks like now in the pandemic season and whatnot. I mean, here in the southern Nevada, we've been distanced up until very recently, but you've been hybrid for the most part all year up in Carson. So is that tech cafe still going? And if it is, tell us a little bit more about that.
We've actually taken a break from it, because when we were full remote last spring, the teachers, it was just too many Zoom calls after being on Zoom with students all day. And we've kind of restructured the support that we have this year with the hybrid, just because we do have a lot of teachers that are still obviously having to use Zoom, even in their face-to-face classes in different ways. But I'm hoping that we'll be able to bring it back in some capacity starting next year, if we're back to full face-to-face. But just to give a little bit of background about it, because Kyle was really instrumental in helping with support that when he was in Carson City. A weekly time and place. It's really a space and a place for teachers to come and either learn a new skill or a new tool or resource, but also just to have a place to collaborate and ask questions about anything that they may need help with or support with that has to do with educational or instructional technology.
So now, shifting gears a little bit, we've been starting to talk to some of the digital engineers as part of the collaborative that we're now working for pretty close to 9 months on different things. And you've been part of this from the very beginning when it started last summer. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing as part of the collaborative and some of the different pieces that you've created and the work that you're doing as time has gone on.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, I'm part of the work group called the Best Practices and Professional Learning Work Group. And so early on, as Kyle just mentioned, last summer when this first got started, we really tried to, the teachers that are the digital engineers in this work group really wanted to try to find a project that could be ongoing. And I have done quite a bit of work in Carson City School District around digital citizenship, always referencing our acceptable use policy, social media policy. And I thought, with as much technology as all of our teachers are using now with the pandemic, I thought, how about creating a webinar series around digital citizenship? And so that's what I did. I launched it in October, which was a great time, because the third week in October is a National Digital Citizenship recognition week. And so that's when I kicked it off. And then I've had a monthly webinar each each month since then. And the idea behind that is, obviously, we always want our students to be responsible users of the technology. But early on in the world of digital citizenship, it was usually focused around things that we didn't want the students to do. But there's really been a shift in the thinking behind that. And how do we help our students and our teachers, focus on what can they use the technology for, and to really be, productive, and be contributing, members of what they're using with their social media. How can we turn that to a positive side? And I must not forget to mention, because a lot of the content from my webinars has been from Mike Ribble. He is the author of The 9 Elements of Digital Citizenship. And so for the months of January, February, and March, I focused on 3 of those elements, and then really tried to, I did a lot of research on, what are resources that teachers can use, whether, they're teaching kindergarten, or, they're teaching an AP class at the high school level. What would be some great resources from, everything that ISTE offers around the standards, to the complete curriculum that Common Sense Media has. And there's a plethora of resources out there, but sometimes it's a little difficult maybe to find exactly what you're looking for. If you want to focus on one of those elements, for example, let's say digital etiquette, what would be a good lesson or a good resource to use that could fit into any content area, and really, enhance what the message that the teacher wanted for the students to learn about, but also just to make sure that they're, what I was conveying was appropriate to any grade level, and wasn't specific for one age level or a specific content area. And so that is kind of in a nutshell what my webinar series is about. And I'm going to have my last webinar in the month of April, where I take a little deeper dive into student data privacy and cybersecurity, because that is definitely something that continues to be in the news. And unfortunately, we've had districts here in the state of Nevada that have, been harmed by different kinds of scams that have come through. So, we need to make sure that we have as many resources out there, and all of our staff are, have enough information to really help with, not clicking on something, the bait in the email, and, things like that. What are some kind of nuts and bolts ideas that can help all school district staff?
Mhm. Dr. Morris, that is an area that I am very passionate about as well, that digital literacy and appropriate social media use in a high school class, a career tech ed class. That's part of what we have to talk about, the positive ways that we can use social media almost as a digital resume, sharing things that they were successful at, sharing things that maybe art that they did or projects that they did. And so that's a conversation I have in my class all the time. And I think your webinars, I'm going to have to go back and check them out. But the idea of, we have to incorporate this K to 12. In my class, it's easy to incorporate. We have employability skills, and I work it in there. But yeah, this is something, especially now with devices in the hands of all Nevada students, which has been a big success this year. Then we have to look at, are we all, educating K to 12? Are we educating them on these digital practices? So I'm so glad that you took that one on. That's a big one here. And I'm glad that you're supporting our Nevada teachers with that.
Well, not only just the students themselves, but teachers, because not a week goes by that somebody doesn't get an email that looks like it's from their principal, saying something along the lines of like, call me, I need to talk to you, or I need you to go pick up gift cards or something like that. And it's these phishing scams that unfortunately even adults fall for. every now and then, and the email has to come out from the principal. Looks like somebody's spoofing me again, so please just delete
Right.
those, report those emails. So it's something that's ongoing that even adults need to learn about. So now with these webinars, you said you have one more coming up later in April. Are these webinars something that were accessible live, that you were doing them with people synchronously, and then available
Yes.
down the road as well?
Correct. We're recording them, but yes, they are live. If you go to the Nevada Digital Learning Collaborative website, you'll be able to see that schedule. April 15th is the next one, and so we had, I believe there were 54 educators from around the state that registered for the webinar series. I've only had, the most I've had live in the webinar, I believe, was 8, but we've been monitoring. I mean, just because the scheduled time didn't work for some people, that we have had most people actually go ahead and watch the recording, but they're scheduled for 30 minutes. So not to make it too long. And then I did allow 15 minutes for question and answer if anyone had, any questions when I was finished about the topic that I had been covering for that evening.
Excellent. So, is there any plans for doing them down the road at all? Or is April just kind of going to be the hiatus time and you'll see as you go?
That's kind of what we're thinking about. Yes, that's the only other one that I have that I'm working on, getting finished up for the content. One of the resources that we have, that I have mentioned in several of the webinars is the video documentary Screenagers that was put together by Dr. Delaney Rushton. She is a pediatrician out of Seattle. And there is conversation, and I don't know if this is going to happen, but it's a possibility that in May we may be able to have a statewide showing of Screenagers virtually. I know here in Carson City, we've been very fortunate to have come to the Carson City Community Center and have a live showing of the documentary. And there's actually she came out with a second one, I believe it's been 2 years ago now, called The Next Chapter, really around social media. And so both of those we've been able to do here in Carson City as basically public service announcements, and had a panel of pediatricians, social workers to be able to ask questions to. And so for the virtual showing statewide, that is very preliminary. So I hope whoever our viewers are that are watching this, it may happen, it may not, but we have had a conversation that maybe we could do that, because Screenagers has, gone completely virtual at this point. Hopefully they'll be able to have face-to-face, showings soon again. But that'd be a great way to kind of tie this up. I don't know what the next project's going to be for the, for the Learning Collaborative, but that's where I'm at right now.
Well, you've got great resources. I'm taking notes as you're talking. It brings to mind one other book that I loved. A couple years ago, Q Nevada had Jennifer Casa Todd out, and she has a book called Social Media, which is one of my favorites, because she highlighted just these positive things. So often what we hear in the news are the negative things that teenagers have done, and she highlighted some really great ways that teenagers were using social media to bring awareness to different topics and things like that. So that's one, as a teacher, I like to go back to and look at. I see you're familiar with it.
Yes. Excellent.
That's a good one.
Well, LeAnn, as we're kind of wrapping things up here, you're connected on social media yourself. Speaking of social media, so where can listeners connect with you on socials?
Yes, on Twitter, I'm LeAnn M. Morris. So if you see my name on the screen, just add an M in there for my maiden name, which is Martin. So LeAnn M. Morris for that, and that is actually my screen name. Also, I'm probably more active on LinkedIn. I know there maybe aren't as many teachers on there, but I do know there's a growing number of teachers that are starting to really use LinkedIn.
Mhm.
All right, excellent. So, well, thank you so much for joining us here and sharing your story and experiences and the work that you're doing. Everything. It was a pleasure having this conversation with you.
Well, thank you for inviting me, and I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
All right. So now, listeners, you can connect with not only LeAnn, but you can also connect with the Nevada Department of Education on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Please use NVDLC, NV Digital Learning, and NV Digital Engineers as hashtags if you're doing so. You can also subscribe to the Nevada Department of Education on YouTube. All of these are linked in our show notes. You can listen to the show on your favorite podcast app like Anchor, Apple, Spotify, and more. Episodes always post on the first and third Mondays of the month. And Maggie, if people want to find LeAnn's webinars and other great resources from the digital engineers, where do they go?
Yes, you need to go to nvdigitallearning.org. That's where we post all of the content for teachers. It's meant for teachers, parents, students, different resources that we have. But that's where we're going to find the webinars once they're complete. I'm looking forward to this one that we have coming up on the 15th. And I know NVDLC is also working on a professional development for the 17th. So be watching our social media as you will see those things posted. If you want to connect with me on social media, you'll find me at Maggie J. Cox on Twitter and Instagram. And Kyle?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Anderson EdTech, and then also my blog, andersonedtech.net. And until I'll edit this part out, I totally just stumbled. So not bad for the whole thing, though. So you can also find me on Twitter and Instagram at Anderson EdTech, and then my blog, andersonedtech.net. And again, make sure you're going to check out the nvdigitallearning.org for these great resources, and look out for information on the Digital Learning Summit that's going to be on April 17th from 9 to 3 p.m. virtually. And thank you, as always, for listening. And until next time, have a good one.